Welcome back to Do It Myself Garage. Really doesn't look like I'll be going fishing or to the car show today. Got GTO sitting here. I was going through a few of the things. Got the hood put on. Not much to that. I'll show you here in a minute. I've got clearance, but just barely for that air cleaner in there. But she's basically all back together. I need to do some work on the dash. I want to get all of the gauges in there working. I did hook up the oil pressure gauge to the rally gauge and it works perfectly. But I still, for some reason, my headlight, the high beam indicator comes on when it's on low beam and off when it's on high beam. So I got to figure out where I wired that backwards. And the fuel sender doesn't work. It worked in the original set, but not on this one. So I'm sure it's just a connection on the back somewhere. Again, there was some grounds there I wasn't sure about. So I might just be missing a ground somewhere. Let's get to work on this. Let me show you how close that air cleaner is under the hood. So just to recap, this is a Pontiac 400. I have an Edelbrock Performer intake, not the Performer RPM, the Performer intake, and an Edelbrock 750 carb on here. I have the exact model number in one of my videos somewhere. I'll try to link to that if I can. And then I've got this, I think it's a 3-inch Element air cleaner on there. Obviously the Element's a little dirty right now. I have a fresh one to put on there. But the concern was whether it was going to clear the hood when it was closed. Just real quick, just so you know, on Pontiac hoods, don't just pull down on the hood. It actually has a lock built into these hinges. So you have to push forward on it just a little bit before pulling down. Let me show you. So just push forward and it undid the lock there on the left hand side. Otherwise, if you pull straight down, you just kink the hood. Now it'll go down nice and smooth. And there's just enough room in there. So you can see there's a spot in the hood kind of for the, just the way they did it. For the if you actually have the ram air pan, there's room there. So in between that bracing, there is room, barely, for that air cleaner. And I probably have a ½ inch or something like that, maybe when it's all done. All right, so I do have enough clearance for the hood. When it does latch, I've always had the problem with mine. I don't know if you can see here, but on the back, it's swooped up just a little bit here. Actually, there's a little bit of a damage on here. So when I have this body work done on this, I'm going to get that fixed. Overall, the height of the hood and the alignment is really good. I had it marked the last time. I'm not convinced my fenders are in the right spot, so I'm not going to mess with it. I do know, though, that for the most part, my seam here on the front is pretty close to where it should be. I'm centered. My line along here, actually I am off a little bit. Looks like I could come, if I come this way a little bit, the front bumper's gonna come this way too. Which actually, yeah, so I'm gonna be loosening up the bumper to do some adjustment. I need to bring the whole bumper, front bumper this way. And I could adjust the hood, but actually it might be just this front piece. Let me loosen this up and pull this in real quick. Let me loosen up these 2 screws right here, these 2 bolts. Did some work last night getting the fender reattached properly. And yep. All temporary until I actually get the body work done. I just need it to work, Oh, that evened that up a lot. I am going to move this bumper over, and this side over here is where it has a big gap. So I am going to raise that side up, and when I slide it over, I'll try to maintain the height here because this one's actually pretty good. Maybe it could come down just a tidge, but she's pretty close. So I'm gonna, that is not my main goal for today. I really want to work on the electronics inside. I really want the speedometer to work. I really want my fuel gauge to work. Fuel gauge probably more than anything because the thing gets like 8 miles to the gallon. So I'm going to go work on that, and I'll bring you along and film anything that comes up. Pulled my cluster out of the car so I could do a little bit of troubleshooting. One of the things I needed to write down, because it's really hard to do when you're upside down and backwards in the car. So the switch for the heater fan, if you see the one where I've got the probe there, that's your power input, at least on this car anyway. And then if you look at the connections, so that one's the power. Then the very bottom one is the high, the middle one is the low, and this left one over here is the medium setting. And obviously with the switch all the way down, there's no power at all to the blower motor. Alright, let me see if I can figure out why I don't have speedometer quit working and why my fuel gauge isn't working. Let me see if we can figure that out. So I put just a driver in here, find something that fits decent in your speedometer, and I ran it counterclockwise, and with the drill, limited drill speed, I got it to 20 miles an hour. So there's nothing wrong with the speedometer. Then I checked the cable, hooked the drill to the cable under the car, and it's spinning up under the dash. I think what I did wrong is the cable I had pulled on it the one day, and you know that inside cable isn't solid inside of there, and I think I literally just pulled it out of here, and so it was just skipping. That's why it wasn't working. So I'll be a little more careful this next time I'm putting it in. The speedometer is kind of a bear to get in and out, and yeah, I think I just ended up literally pulling it out of here, and that's why it quit working. So good news there. I don't think I actually broke anything with the original speedometer. It does turn. I still don't know why the fuel gauge isn't working, so I'm gonna play with that a little bit. If I find something, I'll come back. I suspect it might have something to do with, I had to add a ground here on the gauge cluster here. I didn't have a ground. This one is a ground also. I know I used a red clip, but that's a ground also. And when I did that, the temp gauge wasn't working. So I don't think I have enough powers and grounds for everything. My right turn signal works, but the left one doesn't. I checked the bulbs and they're just fine. For right now, for the high beam, I took the bulb out. I've got the socket in here, but I took the bulb out. Actually, let me go underneath and see if I just have that wired backwards down by the switch. When I got this was used, this rally gauge insert. So this ground here, I went ahead and tied that to the ground that's here. And I made sure that that ground is connected to my other ground that I have here. And then I don't think there was any power on this side. I think that's why my gauge, none of my gauges and stuff were, well, why this gauge doesn't work. These other two get their power from the actual gauge, but the fuel gauge does not. It needs power. So I ran a power line to this, and I think that's why my other lights weren't working, as there was literally no power coming in. There's supposed to be a power line that comes in here, but I don't think I have that hooked up because that actually has a line on it that says generator, and on the back of that, this clip here that comes out, I didn't have that hooked to any power. So I am going to play around with it a little bit. I'm going to hook up power to that one that says gen and see if everything works. If that doesn't, I wanted to have an extra line on here that I knew I could run power to this without having to pull the whole thing out of the dash again. These ones down here are for the windshield wipers, which I don't have hooked up. I just have the hole in the firewall there. I have a windshield wiper motor and washer, just have not installed it. It's kind of the least of my concerns. I generally don't drive when it's raining anyway, and like right now, the hardest part has been just keeping the car running. So Let's get this hook back up into the car. It should be the last time I have to take it out. When I go to hook this up, that should not be a problem. If someone's not sure about these aftermarket switches and how I wired it, feel free to send me a message. I'll send you the wiring diagram. There are two of these that you have to basically jump together. Otherwise, you won't get power while you're cranking. The switches are they're just not made right. So you have to jumper two of the wires together externally. Other than that, I think I'm ready to go. I left the light in for the generator. Oh, jeez, I put the bulb in here crooked. So I put the light bulb back in it. I'm hoping the fact that I didn't have power coming in is why that light was on. Oh, and also I think I mentioned before my high beam, low beam was backwards. I actually switched the wires under the dash, or on the plug that goes to the high and low beam switch. I'm thinking that's something that I had messed up. Maybe it's the way I wired my car. Probably won't be right for anybody else's car, but I just swapped the high and low beam wires on the switch. It might cause the headlights to be the wrong one high beam, one low beam, but that's easy enough for me to fix out here. I think it'll be okay. I think it's just the opposite side of the switch down there. Anyhow, I'm talking too much. Let's get this back together and see if we can't get it to work. All right. So I'm about done for the week. Didn't get a lot done. I tore the dash apart. My key came apart again. And actually what happened is the little tang on the solenoid tab here, this little tang, came off. I soldered it back on, but then when I was trying to put it back in the dash, this nut just, it has like one thread, okay? And this is the one I had taken out of it when I bought the car. This one threads on there great, or better, shall I say, gets more threads. But this is also missing one of the little tanks. One had been soldered on, one had fallen off. So yeah, the quality on these things is terrible. So I ordered a whole new set. It comes from National Parts Depot. I went ahead and ordered a key, this key switch body, and I ordered the ring that's supposed to go with it. So I'm really hoping that those work really well together, so I can get this in there, get it locked down, and get it to work. My speedometer, I put the cable in there, I had it in the dash, hooked up a drill to the cable under the car, just curious because I had spun it out here without the cable, spun it under the car, and it's not working right. Like sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. So I'm going to do some more research. I might have to take the speedometer apart. I really only want to do this one time, and then everything should be good. Pretty sure I have the fuel thing figured out. I mentioned earlier I got the power right on that. I've got the switch mapped out for the power here for the fan. The wires are all marked under the dash. I had actually marked them when I took them apart. Thank goodness I did that. Got some of my other wires straightened out under there. So I did a bunch of stuff off camera, but not a lot of huge progress. I did get about 50 miles or so on it this weekend, driving around last night with family, and on Friday night took it uptown, hung out with some of the car club people. So again, if you've been following me on this, or if you just found the channel, go back. I've got 60 some videos on working on this car, everything that I've done to it since I got it. Kind of an overview of everything I'm doing. I probably should put together a summary video once I actually get it finished. Probably not a bad idea to catch everybody up. But again, a little bit of a short video this week, but thanks for everybody for following along. Like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. Really appreciate all the support, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks.